Welcome back, YouTubers. What I thought I'd do is a video on the solar charging for the Powerwall. Now, I started off with having the 3 solar panels that were left over from the main house installation, which was 3 lots of 240 watt panels, 2 of which I was using to test on the grass in the first part of these videos. And that's worked really well, so what I decided to do was get another 3 so that I can have 6 to put on the garage roof. The roof is 6 meters long, or just slightly over, so to cover the whole roof we really needed 6 solar panels. Now, a bit of a funny story. I was looking at Trade Me, which is our kind of online place to sell old goods or new goods. It's very similar to Gumtree over in Australia, and I'm sure there's a variation of that in the States. But either way, I was looking on there and someone was posting about they had some solar panels. They were 250 watts, so I thought, okay, well, I'll go over and check them out. Anyway, I knock on the door and this guy goes, "Oh, I know you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, really? I don't recognize you." And he said, "Oh, I watch your videos." And I was like, wow, because this, you know, what's the chances of that? Anyway, this guy is actually only 10 minutes from my house. He's Mathew from Online Solar. A great guy. We spent a good 2 hours over at his place talking about not just solar panels, but rails, off-grid inverters, and pretty much everything. And he does all that type of stuff. So if anyone in New Zealand is looking or is after that type of stuff, obviously hit him up, onlinesolar.co.nz. I'll put the link in the description below. But really nice guy. So I ended up buying 3 solar panels off him. They were second hand, about a year or 2 old, and they look like they'll do the job. So what we did was I brought them back here. The next couple of days Mathew actually popped over. I showed him the Powerwall and how it looks. He was happy to see it, and it was good to show someone in real life what the Powerwall looks like, apart from just family members. So yeah, that was fantastic. But anyway, he was fantastic and helped me put the solar panels on the roof, as well as the railing, as well as all those other bits and pieces. So he helped me out with the rails. So I pretty much got most of the stuff off him, which is why he's just fantastic to know. But also, he's only 10 minutes from my house, which is, you know, what's the likeliness of that? So yeah, it's what I'll do is I'll quickly show you what the solar panels now look like on the garage roof. So what we've got here is we've got the first 3 solar panels that you can see on the video are the ones that are left over, the 240 watts, and the ones in the far part are the 250 watt panels. So what I'm doing with these is I'm pretty much connected those in parallel. So there's 2 solar panels in parallel. So we've got 2 240s, we've got 1 240 and a 250. They're matched as closely as I possibly can, and then there's 2 250s that are together. So the 2 250s in theory will do better, but marginally there's not much difference obviously in there. So that's how that part's wired, and what I'll do is I'll show you how it looks inside the garage, and then we'll move on to other bits and pieces that I've done. So inside the garage it comes through a little boot, and then it goes along the top of this and then up to here. Now these cables are a bit longer than I need, but the advantage to leave them longer is mainly because I'm not 100% sure on where things are going to fit on the wall. It's better to leave those cables slightly longer. So the third cable for the third controller, that's not there yet, but for the last 2 panels is here. So I need to terminate that, and then that'll go up the top there, just like the other 2. The other are the fuses on the wall now. So out of each controller, it comes down here along, and then each controller goes into its own fuse. Now these are 10 amp slow blow fuses. The cables are rated up to 25 amps. So we've got 32 amp circuit breaker here with wire that can support easily 32 amps. So that comes across to here. After that we go to smaller wires, so we need to fuse it appropriately. So now, I thought, well, it's never going to get to 10 amps, so we might as well put 10 amps on there. And each of them obviously has 10 amps, so there'll be a third one up here for the 10 amp for the next controller, and that way it's kept nice and neat and tidy. I would have actually liked a cover to go over this, but maybe we'll make something up later down the track. So yeah, another one of these is going to be used for the third controller. The next one's obviously going to be used for other components like the controller that I'm building and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I need kind of more points to connect to, and it means that I can put a 1 amp fuse or a half amp fuse, and yeah, it makes it nice and simple. So that's what I've used there. On each of these, I think I did a bit of a video on it, if I can get the lighting right. These are blade fuses. There's a 10 amp blade, 10 or 15 amp blade fuse in each of these. Now the solar panels only put out just over 8 and a bit amps, so these fuses technically aren't really going to blow unless something I don't know, there's something major happened, because the 10 amp fuses, and the fuse won't blow exactly at 10 amps, it'll be over that, so it may be 15 amps. But either way, it's better to have a fuse there than not, and they're cheap enough, so why not? So that means pretty much there's 2 fuses going, one in the controller and one out. That means that's nice and tidy. The other enhancement I've got is this for the grounding bar. I thought about getting 2 of these, one for here and one for the positive, but I thought, well, this is actually probably going to work out quite good having it fused and not having one of these, but I could always run one of these off a fuse later down the track. But I don't want to kind of overcomplicate things, and I don't want to have too much stuff on the wall, because you know, it's slowly starting to fill up. Not so much at the bottom, but more so at the top. And there's lots more bits and pieces and components to kind of add as we go along with the project. So yeah, so for the ground, this wire here goes down to the bottom of the batteries. That's our negative. That's an 8 gauge cable that comes through to another 8 gauge cable, which then goes through to this little bar. And obviously these are just for the 2 controllers. Eventually this is quite handy, because it's got quite a few screw points to be able to put different bits and pieces into, so that's quite nice, and it doesn't look too bad. So that's how that's looking. The other part is that this will eventually have another one of these at the bottom of it, so that I can connect. If I go down, currently that negative comes straight into this pack, but obviously when I have more packs, I'm going to need somewhere to kind of connect it centrally. So what I'll do is I'll have one of those termination blocks down the bottom here, and then have probably a 4 gauge cable, because I have some left over, a 4 gauge cable that'll run up the wall and up to the 4 gauge input over here. The reason I'm going to use 4 gauge cable is, 1, because I've got it, and 2, it just means that there's far less voltage drop, and yeah, that's pretty much the only reason to use the 4 gauge cable. So the only other thing to really update you about is these controllers here. They've been running for the last 3 or 4 days since the last video, and they've been running pretty well. I took just over around 2 kilowatts out of the pack last night, or out of the Powerwall, and that worked, no problems at all, and that was pretty much over a 4-hour period. It was late at night, so it wasn't much load at all. It could have pretty much went the whole night, as it turned out, but that's okay. I need to get that controller up and running. But either way, these are running fine currently. This one's obviously hasn't got the larger capacitors on it, so hopefully that doesn't blow before we get the 3rd one in there. But I'm kind of expecting that by the end of the week, so, or if not early next week. Other than that, everything's working really well, and it's actually really good to have it charging off the solar panel. Thanks guys for watching. Another big thanks to Matthew for all his help in the last week or 2, and I'll see you guys on the next video.